Hello, everybody. Welcome to impromptu episode of Disclosure Now. It's me, Arkin Ron. I'm here with Kat. OCD. So
Sorry, there's so too much.
I'm just gonna say that. Oh, I didn't even check.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say immediately that in the comments, because I'm gonna do it a little prologue. Um, I'll in the comments of this, I will leave to where I just react to the video. Basically, I just want to talk about how. Sorry for being so disorganized and making a bunch of noise when we start our show. Okay, we just decided to react to this right away. I would love to make my own content on this, but I live a busy life. I don't have a whole team. And he always does such a great job, and with the things I've seen, behind the scenes and stuff like that, I do know how dangerous these people are, what their religion is, what it can turn into, what it can do to humanity. Um, I've been to a future where AI is pretty much taking everything from us, and we don't really have anything left. And we just kind of do whatever the AI tells us to. And I don't want that to happen in this reality, and I don't think Colin does either, regardless of the fact that he might not have seen it. We can all see it coming, and we all know that this company is evil, dangerous, uh, that these people are anti-human, and yeah, let's just get right into their video without further ado. So about 3 minutes in, we're starting it here. Um, and yeah, I just want to give credit where it's due. I did put a link to the video. Colin and his team are absolutely amazing. The things that they're uncovering, the things that they're doing. You need people like Colin. They're extremely important. Journalists who are just passionate about the information and want it to get out there because they know how important it is. So that's why we're covering this video, and um, we thank Colin and his team for all the work that they do.
I'm gonna go put the cat in there.
Yeah, I don't
He's
know.
crying for Charna.
Okay. So without further ado, here it is.
A lot of people who end up trying to be somewhat fake entrepreneurs, where the goal is to be an entrepreneur. If you ask people, what do you want to do with your life? What do you want to do when you grow up? I want to be an entrepreneur, which I always think is a somewhat too common, disturbingly somewhat too common. And I think it's saying that you want to be an entrepreneur is sort of like saying I want to be rich or I want to be famous. Nobody in their right mind starts a company for the sake of starting a company. You start a company because there's a very important problem to solve that's not getting solved in large, governmental or nonprofit or for-profit institutions, and that's why you actually need to start a new company. Just starting a company for the sake of doing so is a really odd thing to do.
In recent days and months, you may have heard the name Peter Thiel. He's the 103rd richest man in the world and has vast ties with the world of technology and other billionaires like Elon Musk, Donald Trump, and many others. In my mind, Peter Thiel and his company Palantir are some of the most evil forces on our planet conspiring against the American people. And by the end of this video, after I've exposed this evil and discussed an incredibly suspicious death tied to Peter, I think that you will believe the same.
So what's funny to me about this, and I shouldn't say it's funny because there's not anything funny about it. I think suspicious would be a better term for it. But the whole psyop that's been pulled with QAnon and all that stuff. If this were somebody who was supporting Democrats, and stuff like that, and they're doing the same stuff and had the same company, the reaction would be,
Alex Jones would be fucking purple in the face.
Yeah, and all the people in the truther community or whatever, they would all be incredibly after this guy. But because he's pals with Donald Trump and because they've done this basically psychological operation where he's the good guy and he's truth Jesus or what, he's going to get the truth out there, which I still don't understand how that's so common and such a thing. But so many people who are passionate about the subject, who care about this kind of information, just totally ignore it if it's right-wing people doing it. And it's such a disservice to the truth and to the people who are being harmed in the world. because it's not just like this some Democrat conspiracy where it's all Democrats like harming people, like when we talk about satanic ritual abuse and things like this. And yeah, it's just silly to act like it's just some right wing versus left wing conspiracy. It's a lot more complicated than that. And yeah, it's just so weird how many people look away from this guy. But anyway, let's continue to dive into this.
Always, everybody, I'm not planning on going anywhere, so I'm not planning on doing anything to myself. All parties are presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. All the opinions presented in today's show are solely mine, the host and producer of The Conspiracy Files. And yeah, this is a deep, dark one and a very important one, so please be sure to comment, like this video, share this video out. If someone you know needs to see this, please send it to them, because this is very, very important stuff that people need to know and learn. Anyways, y'all, welcome to The Conspiracy Files. So today's episode is a bit different because this is a story that's playing out right now in the real world. This is something that is going to affect everyone in America and obviously everyone on planet Earth at some point. This story is so insidious, it's so dark, it's so menacing that it's hard to wrap your head around the fact that this is all playing out right in front of us. About a year ago, I read the book series One Nation Under Blackmail by investigative journalist Whitney Webb. It's an incredible 2-volume, really it's one book, but it's 2 books. So I would recommend everybody out there read that book. It goes through the rise of Epstein and all these organized crime ties to the United States government and intelligence agencies and foreign nations. One nation in specific that's pretty crazy. But she ends the book discussing Peter Thiel, Palantir, and the dark possibilities of this company. And this was back in, I think she published the book in 2022.
And I've covered some of her content on here. Interviewing her would be absolutely fascinating. I feel like she'd probably think I'm a loon, maybe, but she is an incredibly intelligent woman.
Might be incorrect on that, but this was a while ago, so she knew how evil Peter Thiel was, and I wasn't aware of the guy until obviously the most recent election here in America. But by the end of this thing, I think that you will be not only very angry at what our government is trying to do to us right now, but you'll be frightened, because I'm frightened. Researching for this episode was frightening. I want to thank Rebecca Whitworth for researching and writing this script with me, all the women behind the scenes on this show. The show wouldn't be here without them, and our amazing editing team as well. We're going to try to keep this non-political. So even if you support President Trump and you love Trump, please watch this video with an open mind, because this is not a political issue. If Joe Biden was doing this, I'd be going hard on Joe Biden. If Trump's doing this, I'll be going hard on Trump. This should scare you.
Yeah, a lot of people don't understand that. I kind of say the same thing. It's like, I get these people who, when I talk about Trump, they're like, oh, but Joe Biden this or Kamala Harris that. And it's like, whoever said I supported either one of them,
What aboutism?
Whataboutism does not helpful. So anyway, and I commend Colin, because, he doesn't want to be political about it. He's just trying to get the truth out there.
Mm-hmm.
That's important. I've had the same attitude with the information I've had. But I'm at the point now where I think, obviously, these people are like fascist, and a lot of things that they're doing are extremely scary. But regardless, this information needs to get out there, and hopefully a lot of the people on the Trump end of the coin realize how dangerous these guys are, and can find the common ground here with everybody that is worried about this, because we need to do something about these guys.
This is something that's going to affect you. Everybody, every single person in America watching this video, this guy and his company are going to be jammed up your ass, and you have no idea how dark and insidious this whole thing is. Peter Thiel was born on October 11th, 1967 in Frankfurt, Germany, to Klaus Friedrich Thiel and his wife Suzanne. Peter's family emigrated to the United States when he was 1, where he eventually became a United States citizen. In school, Peter excelled in mathematics and was valedictorian of his graduating class in 1985. At Stanford University, Peter studied philosophy and eventually earned his Juris degree in 1992. In 1996, he established the Thiel Capital Management, and after an early investing setback, he established his first venture, called FieldLink, later Confinity, with his friend Max Levchin. In 1999, Peter Thiel realized that they could develop software to bridge a gap in making online payments, and thus his company Confinity launched PayPal, a type of digital wallet for consumer convenience and security by encrypting data on digital devices. After PayPal's smashing success, Peter used 10 million of his proceeds to create Clarum Capital Management, a global macro hedge fund focusing on directional and liquid instruments in currencies, interest rates, commodities, and equities. In 2022, Peter Thiel bankrolled a massive super PAC that backed Ohio Senate candidate and Thiel protege J.D. Vance, our current vice president. Peter Thiel was also known for making several huge investments into other ventures, including Facebook, the Founders Fund, Valar Ventures, Mitchell Capital, Y Combinator, America's Frontier Fund, Bravada Space Networks, and Enhanced Games. Peter additionally helped finance several huge lawsuits brought by others, including a lawsuit brought by Terry Bollea, aka Hulk Hogan, against Gawker Media for invasion of privacy, which is highly ironic, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and infringement of personality rights after Gawker made sections of a involving Hulk Hogan public. Peter Thiel additionally got involved because the Gawker published an article outing him at the time for being gay, and so he sued them for privacy violations. Needless to say, Peter Thiel has lived a very successful life. He's worth nearly $20.8 billion, but like many others, behind his closed doors are secrets, and it just so happens that Peter Thiel seems to be rich in them. So, before we get into Palantir and the mass surveillance that they're going to enact on you, the United States citizen watching this video and listening to this podcast, we have to explore a disturbing rabbit hole, and that is the death of Jeffrey Thomas. Model and social media influencer Jeffrey Thomas first met Peter Thiel in 2015 at Coachella Music Festival in Indio, California, at one of his legendary parties. At the time, Jeffrey Thomas told newspaper The Intercept, "I was wondering why he was being affiliated with someone like Trump and investing in him, if he was gay." Thomas grew up in a conservative household in Texas, and something about Peter Thiel enamored him, including his conservative ties to
It's
Class interests.
yeah, working with Trump is beneficial to Peter Thiel's class interests. That always trumps everything else, even if you are a minority like a gay man.
Yeah, I would agree.
We see it a lot. It happens every time you get a certain level of power.
massive Republican presidential candidates. Jeffrey Thomas was signed to the London-based agency AMCK Models and had previously featured in a series of commercials and catwalk shows. He was also an aspiring firefighter and EMT, taking classes amidst the chaos of his modeling career. In 2019, though, while Peter Thiel was married, Jeffrey Thomas and Peter Thiel began an extramarital affair, despite Peter being married at the time to his longtime partner, Matt Danzeisen, in October 2017, an ex-vice president of the company BlackRock. We could talk all day about BlackRock. We are going to in an upcoming episode, but just for now, know that that connection is insane.
Yeah, basically, if you're watching this, you probably know it, but it's like the company that owns everything, right? And, everybody is in the truther community. Many people who support Trump have been talking about how sketchy this company is and are well aware of it. So this is like a foot in the door. You got to listen to this information. Everybody's got to listen to this information. These guys are this is the most dangerous thing on the planet right now.
Yep.
I feel like I'm John Connor talking to you guys right now. Like, I've seen the future and I've seen what this can turn into, and none of us want it. It's very scary.
BlackRock is like the mother of all conspiracies that are playing out in real time here in America. I believe they're the wealthiest company on earth. I could be wrong on that, but their net worth with all their assets and holdings is in the trillions. If you want to imagine a deep state, BlackRock is that deep state that's just out in the open doing all this stuff. There are a lot of weird connections that BlackRock has to events that have played out, not only in the last couple years, but in the last decade or so, including, this wasn't really reported in mass media, but Thomas Crooks, the alleged Trump assassin who tried to take Trump out at that rally in Pennsylvania, he was seen in a BlackRock advertisement. I think it was an educational video or something like that, but he's actually in this video for BlackRock a couple of years ago. I mean, you can't make this stuff up.
A lot of people have been talking about this.
BlackRock has come up in various conspiracy theories. So to see this Thomas Crooks guy appear in this video, and then the story vanished. I mean, I honestly, just telling you right now, my wife, Courtney, and I have talked about this. It's like after that happened, we didn't hear anything about the guy who attempted to carry out that assassination attempt, at least not to my knowledge. I know that I'm on the internet 24/7, whether I'm creating content or, you know, just taking in content, researching for stories that I'm covering. I read so much online, and I don't remember seeing videos on TikTok about this guy and his background.
I want to address the fact that I think this is a complete fallacy. It's not true. He's just corrupt himself. You know, he never has exposed Jeffrey Epstein. The files aren't being unsealed. He pals around with this guy, Elon Musk, who basically says that he's in the Epstein files. That's really interesting, Elon. Why all of a sudden the change of heart and the fact, why did you want to work with this guy? Why did Elon Musk want to work with Trump? Okay. And then suddenly he doesn't want to work with Trump. These people are all exposing themselves as what they actually are with what they're doing. And when someone shows who you are, you should listen to them. The illegal immigration thing and these overnight concentration camps they're building and these prison facilities and stuff like that. It's a misnomer to think that they're only going to go after immigrants. They're going to evolve it and go after you. And Palantir is already being implemented in local police agencies and stuff like that in the area or in the United States to be able to track illegal immigrants and stuff like that. So it's just like I said, all it is the foot in the door to this police state where the police can do whatever they want. You have masked thugs, like not identifying themselves in the streets, kidnapping people. And you've got copycats that aren't even actual police kidnapping people, using this as a cover.
Yeah, they're grabbing, you know, if ICE doesn't have to identify themselves and they don't have to wear any sort of uniform, any man, you know, people care about sex trafficking so much, any man could grab some random woman or child off the street and be like, I'm ICE, you have to come with me. Like that's what's happening.
I don't like to be rude to people or mean or like contradict the people who are fans of my shows, but I have to be real. Like, thanks for paying attention to this content, but that's not true. And the truth is important. He's just corrupt. Point blank, period. Like he's like, until I see him go on TV and explain all this stuff. Yeah, and you know, the trust the plan and all this stuff. You know, I don't believe anything.
That's a doomsday cult mentality.
Yeah, it's a doomsday cult mentality to trust the plan and not do anything. And it's good that people are starting to think about these kind of things and look at this information, but what's the point if we just excuse all the people that are complicit in it and are making it all happen and allowing it to occur? You know, it's might equals right. That's what's going on. A lot of these guys, like Trump, who maybe aren't directly involved, just believe that this is going to be a powerful thing with a lot of money and a lot of power behind it, and so they want to be involved. And if that's not corruption, I don't know what is. You say something?
Oh, I mean, I'm good, sweetie.
You sure?
Yeah, I think you said everything that need to be said.
Okay.
So.
But yeah, it's not over till it's over. I just don't trust Trump, which is why I'm like the odd man out here in this field. And I appreciate Colin, because he's not really riding the coattails of Trump either. And he's doing his best to not be political. And that's what's weird, is when you talk about this stuff and people are like, you're being political. And it's like, no. How? Just talking about people's corruption is not being political. I do not believe that Trump is saving the abused children at all. Show me any proof. Where's the proof? I've talked about this on my channel a lot. There is no proof. You know, if it's happened, it's like if there's been a base closed or something like that. Good, but where's the evidence? I hope that is true, but where's the evidence? You know, you got YouTube channels of conspiracy people doing stuff like channeling Donald Trump to get information. Yo, the guy's alive right now. He's the president of the United States. I'm pretty sure if he's doing something, he can tell you about it. You don't need to channel him. Like, so anyway,
We could go on about that
we
shit
could
all
go on
day.
all day. It's the point is, let's pay attention to what we're both agreeing is corruption, right?
Maybe
We're all
one or
agreeing.
two, but not the amount that you'd usually see. It was kind of like the event happened, they talked about the shooter.
Definitely fake, definitely staged event, and it's like, it's so funny that one of the most obviously staged events in all of the history that have been alive just completely flew over the heads of all of the people who have,
Yeah, ear cartilage doesn't grow back. I
yeah,
should point that out. Once you lose ear cartilage, it doesn't grow back. So why does he have an intact ear?
and just the whole thing is fishy. The BlackRock guy is the one shooting at him and all this stuff. And where's the evidence of this? Can you give me a link? I don't mean to be like source bro, but like, where's he? Okay, if that happened, I would like to know about it, and I'd like to see the proof.
For like a day or two, and then the whole story about that guy and his background just kind of disappeared. It's shadowy darkness. It's really strange stuff. But he's in that BlackRock company video, and here you go, Peter Thiel, the head of this entire like conspiracy network that we're covering today. His husband is an ex-president of BlackRock. But anyways, back to the affair that was going on between Peter Thiel and Jeffrey Thomas. At the time, Peter was in his 50s and Jeffrey was in his 30s. Peter had 2 kids with his husband as well. Both were daughters, and they lived with them in California. Now, Jeffrey Thomas claimed that his relationship with Peter Thiel was hidden, and it made him feel uncomfortable. He felt like Peter was keeping him, almost like a little pet. Peter, in fact, had put Jeffrey Thomas up in a $13 million mansion tucked away in the Hollywood Hills, and he constantly showered him with expensive gifts, including lavish European trips and a $300,000 sports car. Several of Jeffrey's friends in Los Angeles often saw Peter Thiel over at Jeffrey's $13 million mansion, and vice versa. They saw Jeffrey at Peter Thiel's home, where they would throw wild parties that got raucous and rowdy. When asked about this whole thing, Jeffrey Thomas described his time with Peter Thiel as spent working to persuade him away from his increasingly aggressive pursuit of a culture war, something that was blowing back on the social media / model community. He claimed that Peter Thiel's support for Trump and his increasingly aggressive approach in showing support for the Republican Party was undermining the LGBTQ people. Jeffrey also encouraged Peter to stay out of politics, but it was short-lived, as Peter Thiel was found to be backing Trump in both 2016 and 2020, both publicly and financially behind the scenes.
Okay, so Linda McMahon and Woo in My Ear Cabinet Made for TV. Optics. If the optics are to make our country look like a joke, and like it's run by a bunch of idiots that have no idea how to run a country, then the optics are working. You don't. You join the revolution. Like, what do you think?
Words mean things.
Yeah, words mean things. Like, why does the CIA always overthrow communist countries? Why does the CIA?
This guy's a troll, babe. He was
Yeah.
trolling. I just go ahead and mute him. He was trolling in the last one we did.
Yeah. It's not happening. So I'm gonna get rid of this guy. Yeah, we're gonna keep watching this. All this is, none of this. Here's the thing about this. Here's this comment. I'm going to address this. I don't know if this is a troll too, but there's a lot going on behind the scenes that we don't know, and we only have one chance to end this evil and corruption. Cool. Okay, well, what about what we see right now? That's not behind the scenes anymore. That's being exposed. And all these corrupt people that want to develop an AI and medicine that reads your DNA and all this crazy stuff.
And every RFK is talking about everyone's going to have a wearable by, what was it, by 2030 or something like that. Like a wearable, like shouldn't the people who are upset about the mark of the beast be screaming about that, right?
Yeah. So what I'm going to do here, for the sake of constructive conversation, is I'm going to get rid of you too, because
It's no use arguing with cult members.
yeah, I don't.
There's productive conversations to be had, but it's no use arguing with cult members. That's what I think.
So that's like half the chat.
No, there's some good people in here.
At the end of 2022, Jeffrey Thomas made his formal exit to Peter Thiel, saying to him, quote, "I can't do this anymore. My mental health is at risk," end quote. Jeffrey then moved out of that mansion, moved all the way to Miami, and tried to start a new life without his billionaire boyfriend, though he and Peter stayed in touch. However, then came the New Year's party. Jeffrey Thomas attended a New Year's party at Peter Thiel's Venetian Island compound on Biscayne Bay. And at this party, supposedly, Jeffrey Thomas showed up uninvited. He made a whole scene. He caused a ruckus. He was screaming at Peter Thiel. There are a lot of allegations of what happened that night, but essentially, a lot of people have interpreted that as being the night and the time when Peter Thiel's husband found out that his husband had been cheating on him for years and had been keeping his side piece in a $13 million mansion, giving him hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars worth of gifts, and obviously having sex with him and all of that. And so this New Year's party turned out to be a bloodbath for Peter Thiel. He was embarrassed, he was yelled at, it was a whole thing. This was his secret life exploding into his personal life and causing a massive, dark, harmful ripple effect. But on March 8th, 2023, just over 3 months later, Jeffrey Thomas died tragically after from his apartment balcony down into the busy Miami streets below him. Now, immediately, of course, the Miami Police Department announced publicly that they were investigating Jeffrey's death as a self-unaliving, to which many, including Jeffrey's own brother, Skylar Ray Thomas, claimed was due to his challenges with and his own mental health. Interestingly though, according to reports that emerged, Peter Thiel was said to be a part of the initial investigation by the Miami PD, but he didn't respond to text or phone calls requesting his comment on the matter from reporters. And that was that, allegedly. This secret lover of a billionaire who's in the political world just a high balcony and dies. But was this actually a self-unaliving? Well, according to the New York Post, authorities found the 35-year-old Jeffrey Thomas's body outside of a 57-floor apartment complex in Miami, where he was pronounced dead at the scene. And many witnesses reportedly outside the building told the Post that he had. But despite the Miami Police Department coming forward to announce that they were investigating Thomas's death as a self-unaliving, there was a group of individuals who came forward to journalists claiming that the verdict of self-unaliving seemed strange. It didn't make sense. As it turns out, Jeffrey had been posting pictures by the pool, happy as can be, just a few hours before he allegedly decided to self-delete. Now, you have to understand, Jeffrey Thomas, Peter Thiel's side piece, would have had years worth of information stored up about Peter Thiel. Secrets that he had heard, dark whispers that he had repeated to himself by friends and family of Thiel's. He knew him very well, and as a public and prominent man, Jeffrey knowing that kind of information about Peter Thiel obviously was dangerous. One of Jeffrey's close friends, who had known him from Texas and had also moved to LA, told The Intercept in 2023 that Jeffrey Thomas had just texted her the Sunday before he died, saying that he was extremely excited for her upcoming baby shower in May. She also said that the last time she talked to him in depth about his feelings, he said he was having a hard time in a relationship and had a lot of anxiety about it. Luli Batista of the Sovereign Talent Group told the Daily Mail that she didn't believe it was intentional, as the two had been engaged in a friendly text convo in which Jeffrey had reportedly been joking about an upcoming audition. So she didn't believe that Jeffrey had self-deleted himself. Luli Batista also said that Jeffrey had seemed thrilled and was proud of himself when they were messaging back and forth. He was happy, motivated, and excited for his next step, just loving life. Jeffrey Thomas's cousin, Megan Ray, also said that she didn't believe this was a self-unaliving, claiming that, quote, "to report otherwise is a complete disregard to his character and who he was. The information being published is false and defamatory." End quote. Officials completed the autopsy shortly after Jeffrey's death, but bizarrely, they never officially disclosed or released a cause of death. Now, interestingly, before his death, there was also an alleged incident in which Jeffrey Thomas attended a party with many people in Peter Thiel's inner circle also being in attendance. Now, on that evening of that alleged party, Jeffrey Thomas took a recreationally that was also given to other people at the party. He had never had a reaction to this before, but on that night, he had a horrible reaction. And later that evening, Jeffrey woke up later at the hospital and was told by doctors that the substance that he believed he had taken wasn't actually the substance he had consented to taking, and this substance had nearly taken his life. Strange. So, did Peter Thiel or somebody in this inner circle give Jeffrey a different that evening that could have ended his life? Was this intentional? It was also alleged that Jeffrey Thomas had told people in Peter Thiel's inner circle that he was actually suspicious of the person who had given him that substance. Now, despite public knowledge of Jeffrey Thomas's relationship with Peter Thiel, most articles published about his death didn't even mention his relationship with him. It's very bizarre. This was just, in most of these articles, this guy who of his balcony and, allegedly self-deleted in Miami. They didn't even mention that this guy was in a relationship, a hardcore multi-year relationship with one of the richest men on planet Earth, the 103rd most wealthy individual on planet Earth. They didn't even think of mentioning that. Or were they told not to mention it? That's a whole thing we can think about as well. Now, one article that was written and posted after Jeffrey's death claimed that Jeffrey's agent speculated he may have to his death taking a selfie, but the agent wasn't even there and there was no corroborated sources. This agent was just completely making this shit up and telling it to a newspaper like they were some expert, and they were just literally making this up. The Daily Beast also reported that Jeffrey Thomas had just run into Peter Thiel's husband of 6 years a few months before his death at that New Year's party that I told you about earlier, in which both attended in 2022. And to talk about that party for a second, Jeffrey Thomas wasn't on the guest list that evening that was approved by Peter Thiel's husband, but he found out where it was happening, when it was happening, and he showed up anyways. When Peter Thiel's husband, Dan Zeisen, spotted Jeffrey Thomas at the party, he asked Peter Thiel allegedly, why is he here? And then proceeded to confront and get into a verbal altercation with Jeffrey Thomas in front of all of the guests at the party. Jeffrey was then escorted out by security. Now, some people online have speculated that maybe Jeffrey Thomas was working with several Democratic and progressive activists on an expose about Peter Thiel and his company's dark doings, and that this could have been a driving motivator for someone to Jeffrey Thomas. They wanted to keep these secrets, just that, secrets. Additionally, at the time of his death, Jeffrey Thomas had recently gotten in contact with reporter Ryan Grimm from The Intercept, a reporter who was writing a very thorough piece about Jeffrey Thomas and his secret extramarital relationship with Peter Thiel. Could it have been that Jeffrey Thomas was silenced? Somebody in Thiel's network knew that Jeffrey Thomas knew more than he should. They knew that he was a scorned man, that he was looking for this eye for an eye sort of revenge for some reason. And could they have taken him out for that? Well, there was also a possibility that due to the fact that Jeffrey Thomas was supposedly talking about Peter Thiel behind his back, it created another Gawker type situation. Many found it weird that Jeffrey Thomas's death occurred just shortly before the Silicon Valley bank run, where many high-dollar investors, including Peter Thiel himself, withdrew millions and millions of dollars to the point of its failure. It was also alleged that shortly after Jeffrey Thomas died, Peter Thiel entered the campaign trail to support Donald Trump's second term, and he did this very publicly. So, Peter Thiel, if you imagine, and this is all alleged, he's about to jump into the world of politics. He's about to back Donald Trump, back publicly, obviously, J.D. Vance, come out of the shadows as this.
I know this is random, but do I not look like Weird Al today? I look like Weird Al.
Yeah. Weird Arkeem.
He's a good-looking guy. He's not a bad-looking guy, so I feel okay.
Yeah, he just styles himself kind of goofy,
I feel okay about it.
Spooky fam represent. I love that. Thank you, Jason.
Spooky fam represent. Yeah, thank you to Colin for making such great content.
Yep.
And
We
just,
appreciate it.
I just need to talk about this stuff as much as possible.
You
are weirder than Al. That's funny. Okay, anyway, here we go.
billionaire who's, bankrolling the future of America. He's going to probably do interviews. His face is going to be everywhere. He'll be on TV and the news. So right before he does this, the biggest red flag in his past, the loose end that threatens everything about him and who he is, suddenly dies and takes all those secrets to the grave with him.
Oh, anyway, it's probably just a coincidence. I think we can end the show now, right?
Yep, nothing to see
I think
here.
it got to the point. Just kidding.
Interestingly, Jeffrey Thomas, Peter Thiel's ex-boyfriend, was also very anti-Trump and regularly attended protests. But how could Peter Thiel be so public and forward about his support with an anti-Trump boyfriend? Risky, obviously. This would look really bad for Peter Thiel if it was exposed that not only obviously was he gay, and that's a thing that a lot of people would have contention with, but the fact that his secret boyfriend, who he was cheating on his husband with, was very anti-Trump. Now, just a day before he died, eerily, Jeffrey Thomas shared photos of himself taken on the same balcony from which he allegedly. And in two of those photos, he could be seen on the ledge himself. He captioned this post "from the ashes," and some think that he was foreshadowing his actions that were coming the following day. But the weirdest part of all of this is that there's literally little to no information about Jeffrey's official cause of death.
That's kind of sketchy.
Yeah.
From the ashes?
What color?
Because,
Yeah, like a phoenix.
Phoenix, okay, to Colin, I don't doubt he'd ever actually watch this.
Well, he might. He commented on that other video.
But,
of his.
to people, I guess, just anybody, Project Phoenix 2, the time travel project that I was called, I used to think that Project Phoenix 1 was like some other time travel project where it was just different, but I figured out that Project Phoenix was actually just figuring out how to make somebody basically live forever through cloning. So basically, so she says from the ashes and talking about Phoenix, that's weird.
Maybe he was cloned. Who knows?
Yeah, that's very
He's
strange.
still out there or something.
Yeah, that's really a weird thing to post right before you unalive.
Or determinations from the investigation. It's like all the articles reported Jeffrey's death as a self-unaliving or an accidental death in 2023, and then suddenly every mention of his name and the entire story was dropped. In the coming months, when Trump was running for president and all of this was being announced and Peter Thiel was coming out of the shadows, Jeffrey Thomas's name was barely mentioned in relation to Thiel, and nothing else was ever determined about the investigation. Additionally, it's said that there's more information out there about Jeffrey Thomas and the circumstances of his death, but all this information has yet to be publicly released. Interestingly, Access Hollywood posted a story about Jeffrey Thomas's death, one of the few stories still accessible. Take a look.
Jeff Thomas has passed away at the age of 35. The model and influencer's body was found in an apartment building on March 8th in Miami. A Miami Police Department spokesperson confirms to Access Hollywood. He died of an apparent, but the police department notes that his case is still open. The Miami-Dade County medical examiner said his cause of death hasn't been determined per People magazine. Jeff's brother Skylar Ray Thomas posted about his death in a lengthy Facebook post that reads in part, quote, "It is with heavy hearts we announce the passing of my brother Jeff on Wednesday, March 8th. As you have followed through the years, Jeff traveled the world and lived life to the fullest. What you may not know is Jeff struggled with and mental health challenges, which ultimately led to his tragic passing. Jeff's struggles were difficult. We want to remember him for the kind and caring person he was. He had a contagious sense of humor, a love for music, art, and family, and a passion for helping others. He touched the lives of so many people, and his memory will live on in our hearts forever." He continued saying he hopes Jeff's passing can, quote, "serve as a reminder of the importance of seeking help for mental health issues, while also thanking those who have showed support since his death. Today we celebrate Jeff's life and to mourn his passing. We thank you all for your love and support during this difficult time, and we ask that you continue to keep Jeff and our family in your thoughts and prayers. We will be honoring his life soon with a memorial service and will communicate those details to everyone when available." Jeff boasts 123,000 followers on Instagram, and per his profile, was the founder and director of the One Popsicle consulting agency.
Now, from what Jeffrey Thomas had been working on and speaking to journalists about, it was very obvious that Peter Thiel had been involved in and supporting things that were not necessarily great for the outcome of the United States, including one of Peter's main assets and practically his baby, Palantir Technologies. In 2003, Peter Thiel founded Palantir with Stephen Cohen, Joe Lonsdale, and Alex Karp, an American publicly traded company that specializes in software platforms for big data analytics. The company, Palantir, has 4 main projects: Palantir Gotham, Palantir Foundry, Palantir Apollo, and Palantir AIP. Palantir Gotham is an intelligence and defense tool used by militaries and counterterrorism analysts. Its customers have included the United States intelligence community and the United States Department of Defense. Their software as a service, or SaaS, is one of 5 offerings authorized for mission-critical national security systems by the United States Department of Defense. It's an evolution of Palantir's long-standing work in the United States intelligence world. And among other things, the software supports alerts, geospatial analysis, and prediction, meaning that this is a software used to spy on people. The United States government uses it to spy on people and collect intelligence. So that should be your first major red flag. But we need to move on. Palantir Foundry, another splinter of Palantir Technologies, is a software platform offered for use in commercial and civil government sectors. Palantir Chief Architect Akshay Krishnaswamy gives a brief overview of how Foundry operates in the following clip.
Foundry comes with everything you need from top to bottom to implement complex operational workflows. This includes data integration, model integration, an ontology layer that encompasses objects and relationships and actions and business processes, an entire workflow layer that includes application building, self-serve analytics, and more, and a decision orchestration layer that's designed to capture learnings from end users and actually then feed those back to analytics and data teams and other business systems. And so for fresh architectures, we think Foundry can get folks operational in days.
It was popularized for use in the health sector by its use within the National COVID Cohort Collaborative, a secure enclave of electronic health records from across the United States that produced hundreds of scientific manuscripts and won the NIH FASEB DataWorks Grand Prize. It's been used for data integration and analysis by corporate clients such as Morgan Stanley, Merck KGaA, Airbus, WeHo, Lilium, PG&E, and Flat Chrysler Automotives. Foundry was also used by the Centre NHS England in dealing with the pandemic in England to analyze the operation of the program.
So suddenly, none of this matters. This is what I don't understand. Okay, there's a great deal of people where suddenly none of this matters. The fact that this company people were like so paranoid during the 2020 event that shall not be named about their data being tracked and all this stuff. Now you got the president literally working with these people, being buddy-buddy with them. He's using their technology to track illegal immigrants, which means he's using it to track everybody. Suddenly that's okay to so many people. I don't understand that.
And also they're talking about developing an autism registry. Like every person who has autism is going to be on a list now.
Yeah, screw all that.
As of 2022, Palantir Foundry was used for the administration of the UK Homes for Ukraine program to give caseworkers employed by local authorities access to data held by the Department for Levelling Up, Housing and Communities, some of which is supplied by the UK Home Office, which is essentially like the White House of the United Kingdom. In November 2023, NHS England awarded a 7-year contract to Palantir for a federated data platform to access data from different systems through one single system, worth £330 million, criticized by the British Medical Association, Doctors Association UK, and cybersecurity professionals. This was a deal that people were openly talking about that could go bad, that had some really malicious potential. In 2024, picketing by medical professions outside NHS England headquarters demanding cancellation of the deal occurred. People were so upset that Palantir was partnering with these organizations, these governmental bodies in the United Kingdom in such a way that they showed up to headquarters and actually protested. You know, they had signs and they were angry, they were making their voices heard.
And you'll see the Palestinian flag at these protests a lot because Palantir has been used to target Gaza, the Palestinian people, in very heinous ways. I'll give you an example. One of the operations was called Where's Daddy? I've talked about this before, and basically they were targeting homes outside the realm of combat at night because statistically the combatants will be there. So they were bombing families, and they called it Where's Daddy? That's pretty sick if you ask me.
Yeah, that's gross.
But still, the contract went through, and today they're working on implementing it, specifically with this case in the United Kingdom. But we need to move on. Palantir Apollo, another part of the Palantir brand, is a platform to facilitate continuous integration / continuous delivery, or CI/CD, across all environments, particularly Palantir Gotham and Palantir Foundry. Now, Apollo orchestrates updates to configurations and software in the Foundry and Gotham platforms using a microservice architecture called Palantir AIP, or Artificial Intelligence Platform. It integrates large language models into privately operated networks, and this technology in this platform was launched in April of 2023. Palantir almost immediately demonstrated this technology's potential use in war, showing that now, using their tech, a military operator could deploy operations and receive responses via an AI chatbot. Citing potential risks of generative artificial intelligence, CEO of Palantir Carp said that the product would not let the AI independently carry out targeting operations.
Colin should do a show on Alex Karp. That guy's super creepy and weird. You could do a whole show on that guy for sure.
Yeah, well, we should leave a comment on the video.
I will do that. That's a good idea.
But would in fact require a human to actually make those operations and authorizations. Commercial companies have also used AIP across many domains. Some of the applications of this product include infrastructure planning, network analysis, and resource allocation. Now, Palantir Technologies also has other smaller projects, including Titan, or Tactical Intelligence Targeting Across Node, Metaconstellation, SkyKit, Lavender, and Metropolis. Titan is a next-generation intelligence surveillance and reconnaissance ground station enabled by artificial intelligence and machine learning to process data received from space, high altitude, aerial, and terrestrial layers. Although this was designed to be used by the United States Army.
This is all like SSP technology, like secret space program technology, like rudimentary, like that's what it turns into.
Though, it's possible that this company, Palantir, could possibly test their prototypes against Palestinians in Gaza right now, which is a chilling possibility. Catherine Connolly of the Stop Killer Robot Coalition, which includes Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International, said, quote, "How precise and accurate do you know a system is going to be unless it's already been trained and tested on people?" End quote. So, is Palantir carrying out these dark, overt intelligence gathering operations on the Palestinian people, who are, as we know, being blown to smithereens? And that leads us to another question. Who is Palantir Technologies involved with? Well, one of the biggest customers of Palantir Technologies is the United States military, the United States intelligence community, and the police. You see, Palantir Gotham, that first tech that we talked about, is used by counterterrorism analysts at offices in the United States.
So he was at, Alex Karp was seen at the World Economic Forum, which is another thing that everybody should be worried about, right? That's not good.
United States intelligence community and U.S. Department of Defense, fraud investigators at the Recovery, Accountability, and Transparency Board, and cyber analysts at Information Warfare Monitor, who are responsible for the GhostNet and the Shadow Network investigations. Palantir Gotham was also used by fraud investigators at the Recovery, Accountability, and Transparency Board, a former U.S. federal agency which operated from 2009 to 2015.
You gotta understand too, like, with them automating all this stuff that they're doing, like with Doge, and how they automated so much, and they're talking about them finding fraud with Palantir and stuff like that. They're going to start looking at people's taxes and all that with AI. And I'm sure that sometimes punishments are like people get caught for evading taxes or whatever. And it can make mistakes too. That's another thing that's scary about this AI, is it's been known to make mistakes. So it's being implemented in all these systems and all this stuff that we really don't want to have mistakes, and we want at least human checks and balances.
Yeah, exactly.
Other clients as of 2013 included the DHS, NSA, the FBI, the Marine Corps, the Air Force, Special Operations Command, West Point, the Joint IED Defeat Organization, and allies. According to TechCrunch, the US spy agencies also employed Palantir to connect their databases across departments. The US military intelligence used the Palantir product to improve their ability to predict locations of improvised explosive devices in its war in Afghanistan. Palantir itself has also been working with various US police departments in America. For example, accepting a contract in 2013 to help the Northern California Regional Intelligence Center build a controversial license plate database for Californians, meaning they were helping the police to track Americans.
So they also have done a thing. We're working with protesters in Los Angeles. I read somewhere, using the same technology that they're using to track like Gazans and Palestinians in Gaza. So it's really scary that these guys are working with our law enforcement. It's not good. The over militarization of our police is something that needs to be dialed back. All right, it's something that has for a long time needed to be dialed back. And under the Trump regime, it is the opposite. It is being ramped up, and our police are being heavy duty militarized, and it is not a good thing. It's dystopian, and it's
just messed up.
It's
It's not gonna be good for anybody.
no.
America. In 2012, the New Orleans Police Department partnered with Palantir to create a predictive policing program that is as dystopian as it sounds. And just a year prior, the Los Angeles Police Department had done the same thing. It's been said that the New York City and Chicago police departments have also used Palantir to implement some of their policing strategies. But what are they actually doing? Why would local municipalities, like the police department in New Orleans, use Palantir, a highly advanced technology company that is obviously highly capable of spying on people and collecting data and gathering intelligence? Well, for years, the United States has had strict regulations on the export of weapons systems to foreign countries because of the lack of accountability once in the user's possession, and obviously the potential for serious war crimes. Even Palantir's CEO Alex Karp has argued that the power of advanced algorithmic warfare systems is now so great that it equates to having tactical nuclear weapons against an adversary with only conventional ones. As a result, much of Palantir's alleged public focus has been across military and law enforcement support. Palantir Gotham has been used as a predictive policing system, which has elicited some controversy over racism in their AI analytics. You see, in September of 2016, the Office of Federal Contract Compliance Programs of the U.S. Department of Labor filed a lawsuit against Palantir, alleging that the company discriminated against Asian job applicants on the basis of their race. According to the lawsuit, the company routinely eliminated Asian applicants during the hiring process, even when they were just as qualified as white applicants for the same job. Now, interestingly, Palantir settled that.
Alex Carr probably thinks that's great because he talks about Calvinism and the West being strong and all this stupid bullshit that we really need to get rid of and have been getting rid of, but he thinks we need to bring it back.
Yeah.
The guy's a lunatic. He had parents that were very progressive people, part of the civil rights movement, and he probably grew up and looked at them as idealists and wanted to be the opposite of his parents. And now he's just like a slimy cockroach that bombs families in the night. I mean, that's what this guy is. And Calvinism is the idea that if you're powerful, if you're strong, then
you're rich, you're blessed by God.
You're
basically.
favored
You're
by
God's
God.
favorite.
And it's stupid, and it's wrong, and everybody knows it. And that's what he's mad about, and that's why when he goes on TV, he just rants and looks like a lunatic. Because that's what he is. And that's why if you look at anything, he's been interviewed on CNN and stuff like that, everybody in the comments is just saying this guy's a lunatic. This guy looks like he's freaking doing speed or something like that. The guy's nuts. So, keep that in mind when these people, all these guys, these people think they're so smart and they're such geniuses. and they're just tapped into something. That's all they are. They're just tapped into something. And sure, they might be very intelligent people at times, but that doesn't mean that they should have the right to rule over humanity or that they're correct. Being intelligent and being able to create computer systems that bomb people doesn't make you right or the smartest person in the room either.
Yep.
Suit in April of 2017 and paid out $1.7 million, but they never admitted wrongdoing. I've always thought that was interesting, you know? Additionally, their policing system is incredibly invasive. The LAPD Palantir database alone includes all information from the DMV and nearly 1 billion photographs taken of license plates from traffic lights and toll booths across the state of California. More than half of the Los Angeles Police Department officers alone had accounts held there in these Palantir Technologies databases. Officers also now have the ability to search for people by name, race, gender, gang membership, tattoos, scars, friends, and family, all using this Palantir technology.
And I can testify to the fact that I was used for my timeline already, but for your timeline, it might be in the future. But I've had this technology put into my head to where it weighs people's lives based on their beliefs, based on who they associate with, and it weighs how dangerous they are to a soldier or a military police who has a chip in their brain. That's what it was for me, or maybe some sort of glasses. You don't necessarily have to have the chip in your brain, but it will do. They've showed it with these Ray-Ban glasses. I did a whole video on it. How it can pull up their information, show who they are, where they're from, all that stuff. Basically, browse their social media, find out who they are, what they're all about. So this is really scary technology. This isn't hypothetical anymore. This isn't science fiction anymore. It's happening right now, and it's time to start acting like it. Stop bringing your phone everywhere you go, people.
According to the training manuals, searches like these will return a list of names along with associated home addresses, email addresses, vehicles, warrants, and mugshots. It will also offer related surveillance pictures and any personal connections, like the names of this person who they're searching's friends, family members, neighbors, and co-workers. Officers can use this to generate leads or a list of people whom
They also would use that for if I was trying to find somebody. All right, so if there's a certain individual that I was trying to track down, I would be able to look at people. It would show their connections, and I could, then through them I could look for so and so who knows so and so. I was extremely efficient at tracking certain people down because of this capability.
the system believes are likely to commit a crime in the future because of their associations. Jacinta Gonzalez, an organizer with Latinx advocacy group Mi Gente, said that Palantir gives the police, especially in Los Angeles, an opportunity to expand their power and reinforces that power in the over-policing of Black and brown communities. Quote, Palantir is not actually improving things, she said. It's expanding the power that police have, and it's minimizing the right that communities have to fight back because many times the surveillance is done in secretive ways. It's ridiculous the community doesn't know what Palantir is doing in their city, and we have to wait until you get FOIA documents to actually understand. End quote. In 2010, Hunton and Williams LLP allegedly asked Palantir, Barrico Technologies, and HB Gary Farrell to draft a response plan to the WikiLeaks threat. In early 2011, the group Anonymous publicly released HGB Gary's internal documents, including that plan that linked them to Palantir. The plan that was leaked proposed that Palantir would serve as the foundation for all data collection, integration, analysis, and production efforts. The plan also included slides, allegedly authored by HB Gary CEO Aaron Barr, which suggested, quote, spreading disinformation and disrupting Glenn Greenwald's support for WikiLeaks. On online threads, Palantir has allegedly been involved in a coordinated effort to manipulate information on Reddit and other platforms. This is referred to as astroturfing, where
one thing that happened is there was something that happened where it might have been anonymous. I forget who it was, but it leaked the IP addresses of Reddit users, and it showed that there were thousands of Reddit users that were all coming out of the same place, which was an Air Force military base somewhere in Florida, maybe. I forget where it was.
Wasn't it in Langley?
It might have been Langley, but just look it up. If you look it up, you should be able to find information on it. I'm talking about a real thing that actually happened.
Yeah.
Um,
It doesn't mean that there aren't real people on there who are not posting real shit, but still, it's something to keep in mind.
yeah, they're altering it and astroturfing the information big time, and they got bots helping them now, which is making it even worse.
If people, astroturfing is basically when you try to fake grassroots support for something that isn't really there.
Mhm.
So it's like buying Instagram followers, basically. Sort of the same principle.
Fake accounts are created and then used to promote specific narratives and spread harmful misinformation. This activity, users suggest, may be linked to efforts to subvert discussions and replace them with propagandized versions. Essentially, you see these users online commenting these bizarre things. Maybe they're really supporting Palantir, or they're supporting the government, or they're trying to manipulate you into thinking a certain way. And it looks realistic because it's coming from just a user like you or me on any of these websites. It just looks like Joe Schmo from next door is commenting this, not the arm of this extremely evil technological AI security surveillance company. Interestingly, there were some speculations that Palantir also used its technology to locate Osama bin Laden's hiding spot. Another controversy that was recently discovered was after 26-year-old Luigi Mangione murdered United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson in December of 2024. While the internet and various reports allege that Brian Thompson and United Healthcare have had and had no relationship to Palantir technology, it's been established as of recently that Palantir owns quite a big stake in the medical and healthcare industry, recently announcing the merge of using AI technology in medical and healthcare settings. Ironically, United Healthcare has long been scrutinized for its use of AI and algorithms in automating and potentially increasing claim denials, particularly for Medicare. Obviously, the United Healthcare company itself has been accused of denying and delaying the care of so many individuals. There is blood. Obviously, there's blood on the hands of all of these insurance companies and CEOs. That's a whole nother video and whole nother rabbit hole that we have to get into. And on this note, it's important to mention that Luigi Mangione's motive lied with being, that's right, you guessed it, denied by United Healthcare. This is all alleged. I mean, I've seen news lately that Luigi might walk. I don't know what's going to go on with that. Now, Luigi had chronic back pain, and despite surgeries and treatment, it was alleged that United Healthcare denied Luigi's continued requests for treatment. It makes you wonder if the AI that Palantir built for healthcare and the AI that United Healthcare uses had anything to do with that. It's very well possible that the two are deeply connected. Additionally, it was said that Luigi had praised Elon Musk and Peter Thiel on his social media platforms, posting videos of them speaking. Of course, though, if you spend any amount of time on the internet looking for information about how United Healthcare, the death of Brian Thompson, and Palantir could be connected, almost nothing comes up. According to the internet, none of it's related at all. But we have to talk about Project Maven. After protests from its employees, Google chose not to renew its contract with the Pentagon to work on something called Project Maven, a secret artificial intelligence program aimed at the unmanned operation of aerial vehicles. So this project, which obviously was, trying to make like robotic Terminator planes that are flying by themselves, or whatever they're talking about, drones maybe, I don't know the exact details of it, Google faced massive controversy and ultimately chose not to work with the government on this, saying, whatever their reasoning was, this is too extreme, this is taking it too far. But when Google left and created that vacuum, Palantir stepped in and took over the project. Project Vision shared the main purpose of Project Maven in the following clip.
By deploying its software in Ukraine, Palantir was able to significantly improve its artificial intelligence models that are now being used by the Pentagon through Project Maven. In the last couple of months, the artificial intelligence models of Project Maven were able to locate rocket launchers in Yemen and surface vessels in the Red Sea and helped narrow targets for strikes in Iraq and Syria.
Critics warn that the technology could lead to lethal autonomous weapons that decide who to strike without input from a human being. Palantir is, quote, responsible for most of the targeting in Ukraine, end quote, according to CARP. From the moment the algorithms set to work detecting their targets, i.e. people, until these targets are prosecuted, i.e. a term of art in the field. No more than 2 or 3 minutes elapse, noted Bruno Macias, a former senior Portuguese official who was given a tour of Palantir's London headquarters last year. In the old world, the process might take 6 hours. He was quoted at the time as saying, "In April of 2024, Project Maven operated in the Russia-Ukraine war as the first opportunity to test how the system would work in a conventional ground war between two armies. One of the main goals was to develop automatic target detection, which could then be combined with drone technology to produce swarms of autonomous kamikaze drones that can seek out and destroy enemy targets with minimal inputs from human operators. It was also used in the following ways, as explained by the following clip."
Then, in February of 2023, the French newspapers reported that Ukraine had received Palantir's Skykit autonomous systems, which are used to gather intel in extreme and hostile environments, even before their official launch. A month later, in March of 2023, Forbes Ukraine published an extensive piece about Palantir's cooperation with the Ukrainian army. Forbes stated that Ukraine is using Palantir's Edge AI platform that, with the help of artificial intelligence, can autonomously process hundreds of satellite images each day, which saves weeks of manual work for Ukrainian officers and gives them a clear view of the battlefield. Forbes also states that during the liberation of Kherson in late 2022, Palantir has been analyzing data that was gathered by dozens of satellites that flew over the region, which helped the Ukrainian troops drive Russians out of the city. Then just over a month ago, the British national newspaper The Times published a new report which said that Palantir helps Ukrainians find the exact location of Russian ships, tanks, and planes in real time so that the Ukrainian army can efficiently tackle the Russian threat on its soil. The report also says that more than 1,000 servicemen are stationed at the headquarters of brigades throughout the country and are using Palantir software to have a clear understanding of the battlefield.
Meaning, it's just been used in warfare to... There's a fear that in high-pressure situations, there could be a move towards further automating the targeting and chain process. The internet does state that current US policy says that human operators retain control over the decision to fire weapons. But I think you know as well as I do that there's always a bad apple in a batch, and we are at the current moment speeding towards oblivion. In June of 2021, a campaign was started against Palantir Foundry by Foxglove, a tech justice nonprofit, because they alleged, quote, their background has generally been in contracts where people are harmed, not healed, end quote. Clive Lewis, MP, supporting that campaign, stated at the time that Palantir had a, quote, appalling track record, end quote. In 2024, Peter Thiel supposedly joined a multi-million-dollar investment in Enhanced Games, a proposed Olympic-style mega event without drug testing. It promises to put on an international sporting event where performance-enhancing drugs are allowed, within a regulated environment, which would include a sophisticated safety protocol of health checks before and after competition. That's a quote from their official description. Unlike the real Olympics, the Enhanced Games would be a for-profit event, which promises to generously pay athletes who it believes are being exploited in the not-for-profit system. The idea is the brainchild of Dr. Aaron D'Souza, the Australian lawyer who helped mastermind.
It's like the Return of the Colosseum, like in Gladiators and shit.
Weird.
Peter Thiel's proxy war against the news media organization Gawker. Remember that we talked about? Peter Thiel and Hulk Hogan against Gawker, and the things that Gawker was, Peter Thiel believed going to reveal about himself. Interesting. So they're all connected. Travis Tygart, the head of the U.S. Anti-Doping Agency, or USADA, called it, quote, farcical, likely illegal in many U.S. states, and a dangerous clown show, not real sport, end quote. Now, according to a February 2025 article in The Political Economist, Palantir has been working with the Israeli military in so-called targeted. Critical information from the NSA continues to be used by Unit 8200, according to a number of sources, to target tens of thousands of Palestinians, innocent Palestinians, often using US-supplied 2,000-pound bombs and other weapons. And it is extremely powerful data mining software, such as that from Palantir, that helps the IDF to select targets. Reports have suggested such that these murders probably in the thousands or tens of thousands, utilized social media information and cell phone tracking to identify potential targets for strikes. According to a range of sources, over 150 different Palestinian journalists have been in Gaza, and in numerous cases, these journalists appear to have been somehow directly and violently targeted. This program is allegedly called Lavender, the most in-depth examination of the connection between AI and the massive numbers of innocent Palestinian men, women, and children in Gaza by Israel comes from an investigation recently published by 972 Magazine and Local Call. Although Palantir is not mentioned by name, the AI systems discussed by the journalists in this article appear to fit into the same category. According to the lengthy investigation, Unit 8200 is currently using a system called Lavender to target thousands of alleged Hamas fighters. The Plus 972 Magazine report details how the Israeli military uses powerful algorithms to sort through enormous volumes of surveillance data, phone calls, text messages, geo-tracking data, and digital footprints to come up with lengthy for potential targets. And adding to that haul would be data from the NSA intercepts of Palestinians in the United States communicating with their innocent families left back in Gaza, a process that continued even after Edward Snowden left the NSA and tried to expose this, according to a number of sources. It was also reported that during the few weeks of that war, the army almost completely relied on Lavender, that supposedly shadowy Palantir program, which according to sources clocked as many as 37,000 Palestinians as suspected militants, and further identified their homes as possible locations for airstrikes. The army gave sweeping approval for officers to adopt Lavender's, with allegedly no requirements needed to thoroughly check why the machine identified those people as people they should.
We've talked about all of this on the channel already.
And no requirement for anyone along the way, allegedly, to examine the raw intelligence data on which all these assumptions were being based. One source stated that human personnel often served only as a rubber stamp for the machine's decisions, adding that normally they would personally devote only about 20 seconds to each target before authorizing a bombing, just to make sure the Lavender marked target is a male. So none of the other background data really matters. There were just, something that seemed suspicious or something that seemed off about this person. And so then, according to these reports, these people in their homes are targeted for strikes and bombings and shootings and whatever else they're going to carry out, with no regard given to whether this person has a family, kids, a wife, whoever else living with them. It's just, we got this guy. He seems, according to this AI, to be suspicious. Let's anyone else that's near him. And this entire thing was carried out despite knowing that the system makes what are regarded as errors in approximately 10% of recorded cases, and is known to occasionally mark individuals for death who have merely a loose connection to militant groups, or they find out afterwards absolutely no connection at all. Moreover, the Israeli army systematically attacked the targeted individuals while they were in their homes, usually at night, while these people's entire families, women and children, were present, rather than during the course.
I wonder if he's going to talk about how they called the operation Where's Daddy, because they did. It was called Where's Daddy. Super messed up name for any military operation involving bombing families.
Course of military activity, striking these people and their families while they're sleeping. This Lavender software analyzes information collected on most of the 2.3 million residents of the Gaza Strip through a system of mass surveillance, then assesses and ranks the likelihood that each particular person on this list is active in the military wing of Hamas, or PLJ. According to sources, the machine gives almost every single person in Gaza a rating from 1 to 100, expressing how likely it is that they are a militant. Lavender, the system, learns to identify characteristics of known Hamas and PIJ operatives, whose information is then fed to the machine as training data, and then used to locate these same characteristics, also called features, among the general population, the sources explained. In testimonies and interviews given to the media, they specified that data from Palantir systems included Palestinians' sexual orientations, their record of infidelity, their record of money and financial problems, their family medical conditions, and other, quote, private matters that could be used to extort/blackmail the person and turn them into a collaborator or create divisions within their society. And that's terrifying. That should horrify you. All of this should, but just those details alone really should. Israel's indiscriminate seeming in Gaza offers the perfect example of why it's also time to begin far stricter regulation of the export of AI systems, like those developed by Palantir.
That a few people get wealthy, and if you said platitudes that were obviously stupid, you could...
Getting wealthy off of Palestinians with Palestinians with their AI and technology. Family in Palestine.
Yeah. You know...
How do you sleep at night?
Well, if you...
Shame on you.
Do you want to hear my answer? I think the primary cause of death to Palestinians... Okay, do you want to hear the answer, or do you want to yell? Well, you don't want to hear an answer? Obviously. So the primary source of death in Palestine is the fact that Hamas has realized that there are millions and millions of useful idiots that will...
Using that excuse, this is why you don't get lessons to speak. Because you are my people and you're justifying it because of Hamas or anyone else.
Can we get security up there?
Your AI and your technology from Palantir, Palestinians.
Mostly terrorists, that's true.
No.
Even he says mostly terrorists. Even he acknowledges that there's people who are dying who are innocent.
She believes I'm evil. I believe she's an unwitting product of an evil force, Hamas. That she unwittingly is part of their strategy, that she is a product. And the most important thing, arguably, in the book, or what Palantir, or what you could learn, is do not become a product of an ideology that sounds sensible.
But probably the biggest and most controversial partnership is Palantir's current and very relevant relationship with the United States Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE. Palantir has been working with US ICE since 2014. In a statement provided by the New York Times, the firm implied that because its contract was with HSI, a division of ICE focused on investigating criminal activities, it was playing no active role in current deportations. However, documents obtained by The Intercept show that this is not the case, and allege that Palantir's ICM software is considered mission critical to ICE. In one internal ICE report, it was revealed that Palantir's software was critical in an operation to arrest the parents of children residing illegally. In 2016, Palantir's software was used in the infamous Bronx 120 raid, when ICE agents terrorized the neighborhood by raiding homes, batting down doors while wielding assault rifles, and using flashbang grenades. One man even fell to his death during that raid. And in the summer of 2017 alone, ICE agents had arrested 443 people using Palantir's software, including the parents, family members, and other sponsors of unaccompanied children, as well as any undocumented people encountered during the operation. Now, I know that ICE raids and deportation is a very, very touchy subject here, and I know that some of you at home are listening to me talk about these issues and thinking, Colin's a dumb liberal and he's a an idiot and he's trying to blah, blah, blah. But please try to distance yourself from that rhetoric and that train of thought and get through with me and follow me here on this train, because you might think that this is just happening to these people right now. But what if someone else starts using it against other people? That's where we're going with this. This isn't some sort of anti-Republican tirade. This is a warning signal, a wake-up call to people watching this video that it's these people one day, then it's you the next day. And I have empathy.
Honestly, the fact that you have to point out that it's not some anti-Republican tirade is really sad.
For these people, that's its own thing. We don't have to talk politics on this show right now, but it's going to get scary. Now, that operation in 2017 where the United States ICE used Palantir was deemed a failure because almost none of the people that were arrested could be prosecuted. Keep in mind, this is during Donald Trump's presidency, but officials at the time were sold on the tactic of deterring migration to the United States by targeting parents. As a direct result, the Department of Homeland Security implemented, quote, zero tolerance a year later, separating thousands of children from their families. Additionally, in 2017, ICE planned what would be the largest raid in the country's history, which set a quota of 8,400 people to be arrested nationwide. But the plans for that raid were abandoned. Palantir was also used by ICE in 2018 when ICE agents fanned out across the country, raiding almost 100 different 7-Elevens, with Palantir's software conveniently preloaded on agents' phones. On September 28, 2020, Amnesty International released a report criticizing Palantir's failure to conduct human rights due diligence around its contracts with ICE. In 2022, ICE agents used Palantir software to descend on Mississippi chicken processing plants and arrested undocumented workers en masse. This is during Biden's presidency. It was the biggest deportation raid in the United States' history, sweeping up 680 people in one single day. Parents were arrested on the first day of school, and children returned to empty homes. Concerns around Palantir's rights record were being scrutinized for contributing to human rights violations of asylum seekers and migrants. And to this day, it's been reported that Palantir has been closely working with ICE to enable mass deportation in support of the Trump administration, much of which we've seen protests recently erupt in Los Angeles and cities across America in protest of. So, if this is what Peter Thiel and Palantir Technologies are doing right now, what comes next? And keep in mind, that's only what we know Peter Thiel and Palantir are working on. That's only the public knowledge that they've leaked to us. That's only the fraction of what's actually going on that we've somehow become privy to. 5 Minute News recently claimed that the latest information shows that Palantir will be working with Donald Trump to help develop a massive United States database system. Let's take a look at that. Here's a clip before we get into it.
The New York Times has revealed that the Trump regime is collaborating with Palantir Technologies on a data-sharing initiative that could lead to the creation of a massive federal database containing personal details on nearly every American citizen. According to the report, such a centralized system would dramatically expand presidential surveillance capabilities.
Now, despite the thousands of that the Palantir softwares are allegedly responsible for in Palestine, in Israel, in Ukraine, in Russia, in other countries and other wars, Palantir Technologies continues to be a growing asset to US military and surveillance communities. With its newest announcement and its introduction into the healthcare field, it will only get bigger and more invasive. The research on the dangers of AI is still being studied, and the long-term consequences of how it may impact us all in the future as it's more developed and fine-tuned will be vast. According to many, Jeff Thomas, Peter Thiel's longtime boyfriend who to his death, tried to share these warnings with us and went so far as to act as a whistleblower to the media and other sources. But he was silenced, just like everyone else, and he disappeared off the face of the earth, taking whatever dark secrets he was made privy to with him. There are many people close to Jeff that hold much more information on the investigation of his death, but only time will bring that truth to light. There was also the recent case that I recently covered on this show of Suchir Balaji, who was an AI researcher who formerly worked for OpenAI and was making the move to publicly expose the dangers of AI as well, until
Yeah, I haven't even watched that one yet. We gotta watch it for sure.
Oh yeah, totally.
he was found dead in his apartment just late last year. Check out my episode on that if you want to see me actually dive really deep into that story. Also should note here, Suchir's mother actually commented on that episode. She said that she was thanking me and said I did a great coverage of the story, which I'm really grateful for. So if she's out there watching this episode, I'm really, really grateful that she commented and let me know that. Let me know if you guys want me to do another deep dive into that, because there's so much more that we could have gotten into. Palantir Technologies, Peter Thiel, and the other billionaires who run tech and the big business that manages the US military, law enforcement, healthcare, and other sectors are becoming a bigger and bigger percentage of what controls this country and dictates not only the economy, but also drives politics. If we as people don't take action soon against these tyrannical people and businesses, what will become of our future? That's the question I want to ask you. Now, you may have your own opinions on ICE raids and deportations. You may have your own opinions on the Israeli-Gaza conflict. I'm not going to call it a war. You may have your own opinions on Russia-Ukraine. I don't give a about any of those opinions. You need to take the politics out of those situations and just look at the situations themselves. Palantir, this incredibly shadowy company, has been going into these countries and using mass surveillance. We don't even know the scope of Palantir and what exactly they do. These are just things that we know through certain disclosures and whistleblowers and leaks. And they have been creating the biggest mass surveillance databases that have ever existed in world history. For those of you who watch this show every week, I want you to think of the episode that I recently did about Operation Chaos. That was a CIA operation in the 1960s that essentially aimed to spy on United States citizens. They had operators that infiltrated groups that resisted the United States government, that were protesting here in America, and they compiled a database of their own of over 300,000 plus United States citizens. That is happening on a much grander scale than you can possibly imagine right now in this country. And it's happening to everybody. If you think that this isn't happening to you, it's happening to you. It's happening to you, the person listening / watching this show. It's definitely happening to me. I know that I just applied for TSA pre-check to skip the lines because I fly so much for my show and my application. Courtney, my wife, got her application back within a day, and it's been over 3 weeks for me and I still haven't heard back. So I know that I'm on some sort of a list, but it's coming. And if you think that this tech won't be used against someone like you in the future, it will be. Yesterday it was the Gazans. Today it's those being targeted by ICE raids and for deportation. But what happens when somebody takes power that directly opposes you, that wants to use this technology to get rid of folks like you, regardless of what it is? Maybe one day it's an extremely left-leaning president that wants to target people that have, make America great again thought processes, or Christians, or Jewish individuals, or any different person with any sort of religious belief. Maybe it's an extremely right-leaning politician who wants to take out disabled individuals, and you have a disabled child or family member. Who knows what they could use this for? It's deeply, deeply frightening. And regardless if they're going to take people out or yada, 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 do whatever, the fact that they're going to be able to build, and they are building, Trump already announced that they're going to be working with Palantir to do this, building mass surveillance systems, gathering this information on United States citizens, no matter why they're gathering this information, that should deeply concern you and frighten you about the potential that this technology has and how and when it will be applied for use in the future. Anyways, y'all, I know this was a bit of a long, ranty episode with a lot of terminology, but it's really important to understand all this stuff because it's deeply disturbing when you get into it. No matter your thoughts on politics, they should not be encroaching on our rights and our privacy like this. And it's coming. Mark my words, it's coming. I don't want to be right about stuff like this, but I'm sure I will be in the next year, couple of years, when we start figuring out what they've been using these things for and what they could use them for in the future. But anyways, y'all, please be sure to comment on this video, like this video, share this video. As with any of my content, if you want to clip my content and upload it on TikTok, Instagram, whatever platform, feel free to do it. I won't copyright strike you or do anything like that. If you take any of my clips from the conspiracy files, go ahead and make money with it. I don't care. I just want people to learn about this stuff and learn the truth about what's going on. I guess I'll be back next week. Thank you all for tuning in. Keep that tinfoil hat on. Always stay suspicious, and I'll see you guys next week.
So, of course, if you haven't already, subscribe to Colin's channel, follow his work, like the video, comment on it. It's in the description. I couldn't have said it better. This whole idea that this technology won't be used against us is very naive, and we got to be careful. Obviously, thank you to my patrons, as always. You guys are the best. And we're going to wrap up the show now.
Mm-hmm.
So
Thanks for being here.
Thanks for being here. And
God bless.
God bless.